Anyway, so anything else to say about the esports arena stuff?
Nah, let's move on.
So we brought this up at the start rather than other things because I felt like it ran into the second topic pretty well.
Right.
Which is to cover the AMA that Mike Ross did over the weekend. Or maybe was that yesterday or a couple days ago? I don't know. In any case, his AMA on Reddit. So did you read it?
I read a lot of it. I don't know if he added more to it afterwards.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
I'm not sure I caught actually everything either.
So I did read it. I did read a lot of it, and
what happened?
To be honest with you, I read it, and like a lot of it made me sad. Actually, to be honest, one of my biggest reactions of it was that I felt like I was really sad.
Okay.
I felt kind of down afterwards for a lot of different reasons, right? Mike Ross and I had conversations a long time ago before he even like got big or whatever like that, and he's often said to me like one of the reasons why he went for the whole thing is because of a conversation that we had and stuff like that. So I'm just like, dang, did I like throw him into like, I feel bad that he had like this horrible experience out of it, but at the same time, it's his decision. It doesn't matter what I say, so it doesn't even matter. But also at the same time too, a lot of people respect Mike Ross. Mike Ross keeps it real. And, he's definitely very anti-esports right now. And, I don't like esports, the production thing.
Yeah.
But I understand the growth of the fighting game community. And I know a lot of people, one of the reasons why that a lot of people target me as like a shill or something like that is because I do want it to grow. And I've said that many times that in my heart of hearts, I've been living the fighting game community for 20 years as a niche thing. Yeah. And I'm kind of tired of it. You know what I mean? I'm tired of it not just because I don't like seeing... It's not just like I want us all to be rich. I want this success. It's just I'm tired of having people not be able to enjoy these awesome, talented players. I want these stories to be told. I want PR Balrog to be popular. I want, Justin to be well known and stuff like that. Not because, like I said, I just want to be validated. It's not kind of like I need to validate video games thing. It's just these guys are my friends. I want them to be successful, and I think fighting games are awesome. And honestly, part of it probably really is that I've dedicated too much of my life to this, and if it goes away, I would feel pretty crappy about that. There's definitely a lot of that to that.
It's understandable.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, before we talk more about it, do you have like do you remember what he said? Can you like recap it?
I mean, a couple of things, like he was just saying he hated what happened. Like he hated the esports side of things. He did not like where it was going, and so he just wanted to quit. He hated people trying to make it something that it wasn't, and some people asked him so what do you really think of Street Fighter V? And he said Street Fighter V sucks. I hate the game. Yeah. He was like, if you're an 18er and you want to like the game, more power to you. Yeah. But like the game sucks, and all of a sudden he was pretty angry. I mean, it was pretty angry, but it wasn't angry. He was like very. It was very candid. It was candid. It was very candid. Yeah. Yeah.
He also talked about how he tried to make Capcom Pro Talk work.
That's right.
Which is, of course, the show that he did on Tuesdays. Right? For a while. It was a couple years.
With Flow, too,
Much of the time with Flow. And that he did a lot of the payment stuff out of his own pocket, and that Capcom didn't support it.
Because they didn't think it gave him any money or
right.
whatever
So
like that.
when he was told that Capcom didn't support it, that they didn't see any reason why I should continue, then he just stopped it because he thought, well, if they don't even care, like, why am I doing this?
Right.
So there was a lot of I don't know, disappointment.
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of, as much as distaste was a big part of it, dislike for how things are going, I feel like there was a lot of disappointment in there too.
Yeah.
AMA.
I mean, look, CPT was awesome. It was great. It was like, Mike Ross was amazing on that thing. Mike Ross and Flo were amazing.
Awesome.
Right? I loved watching that. I thought that was like, well, when I could, because unfortunately I was at work and Twitch is blocked at my work, so it was like really hard at the time. But, it's again, the thing about it is like, and I'm going to say this without trying to sound like I'm trying not to ride Mike Ross, okay, here. Mike Ross is a visionary, okay? I'm just going to say that. He had a lot of insight to really what to do. I mean, as much as anybody can say anything about cross-counter TV, that was successful. Like what they did. Oh, yeah. They crafted something very successful for themselves, right? Capcom Pro Talk was a great vision. A lot of the things that he tried to do at Twitch were great visions, but sometimes he just wasn't allowed to do it. And this is the problem with the real world, is like a lot of times people at home are always like, just do this and this will solve the problem. A lot of times the world doesn't agree with you on that. Right. You know what I mean? And it's too dangerous, and it's too risky, or you can't prove to the people that it's going to make money. And honestly, it's true. The older you get, the harder it is for you to see different kind of ideas, right? I mean, that's the music industry is in that right now.
Yeah, you get in a rut, for sure.
Right. So honestly, I really feel like he was on the right track. And to hear that Capcom kiboshed the Capcom Pro Talk, especially because, you know, at the time, there was a lot of people we knew that was working there. And, like, right now, there's a lot of, like, I wonder if the people at Capcom right now are even like, what the hell? Why would we have shut that down? You know what I mean? Like, are they even thinking that? Right.
Where in Capcom did that come from, right?
Right,
I don't know.
Exactly. And it seems really, really weird that would be shut, because it was great. It was great. It got a lot of eyes on the Capcom Pro Tour. I thought it was super valuable.
Definitely.
And it's hard for a lot of people to understand not seeing hard, true money. And I don't know if that came from the Japan side.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely a Japan thing.
Yeah.
That is definitely a Japan thing.
Yeah, so. I really don't know. But, you know, for Mike, so before, I'd like to talk about his thoughts on sort of esports and all that stuff. But even before, I just want to talk about Mike himself. He was obviously extremely popular, and he hated popularity.
He had to deal with a lot of stupid shit, dude.
Well, for sure he did. But I mean, he didn't like being popular. Like he's told me that a bunch of times. And there were even times after tournaments when James and I'd be old people and just go up to our room and like get a pizza or whatever, and we would invite Mike up, and we would just sit there silently, right? Yeah, because none of us we're just like over it, you know.
Yeah,
we don't. It's nice to meet people, but like, no, but really, like it's nice to have a little break. And he would talk about how he felt like he didn't get breaks, and he constantly had to deal with being like a personality. Many times before he went on to host a program, he would tell me, I don't like hosting. Like, why am I here? This is not something I like to do. So he was awesome at all those things. He was a great host, but he didn't like it. And I've always felt like that was a big issue for him, that he kind of fell into this thing that he was great at, and that was valuable for the community for sure, but that he himself didn't enjoy.
Yeah, and you know, he had to deal with a lot of stupid things. I mean, Mike Ross is also a very prideful person. You know, he really believes in himself. I mean, I think that's probably why believe became his kind of catchphrase at one point in time. He would make some crazy comebacks. He got top 4th at EVO, top 4 at EVO that one time, and all this stuff. But then, you know, it was that joke. Like, there was a great story that I saw that, you know, someone had a Mike Ross as a fraud sign. Did you read about this?
Yeah.
So, like, the guy had this Mike Ross as a fraud sign. Then after the thing was done, like, after the tournament, he walked up to Mike and was like, can you sign this? And Mike's like, sure. So he takes the sign and he just tears it up and just, drops it and walks away.
Yeah.
Because he was with his at that time girlfriend, I think, or something like that.
That's what it said, yeah.
And so, I mean, he just had to deal with a lot of that stuff. And I know that he's one of those... He doesn't want to deal with that.
I mean, and who can blame him?
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I saw him and his girlfriends get harassed so much that when I started dating my now girlfriend, I didn't want to like make it public because I was worried that that would happen to her.
Right.
And I didn't want that to happen.
It's true.
It never did. But that was a big concern because I saw what Mike had to go through. So I feel like there's on top of his distaste for SF5, which I think is real, and how things went in terms of Twitch and Capcom and esports and stuff. There's also this side that I feel like is just him just being done with doing stuff that he didn't want to do, like being a public persona rather than just like a player and a guy who hangs out, like the extra burden of it. I feel like he kind of finally threw off. You know, he sort of just like didn't want to have it anymore, which I get.
I can totally see him coming back as a player and just not doing the personality things. And I think that would work out for him because I know that's kind of what he would rather do. In his heart of hearts, he would rather be a player.
I'm sure.
You know,
sure you're right.
And like, for example, I feel the same way. If I could be competitive right now, I'd rather be playing right now. But I do commentary because I know I can't be competitive right now. You know. So, but the thing is, I think Mike is still in a position where he could do it. In fact, you know, he's still playing Guilty Gear. He does like a couple of like silent, hidden streams with Guilty Gear where it's playing, but he's not on camera. You don't hear him or anything like that. So
for sure. Yeah, there's nothing. I don't. It's not like he went crazy or anything. I feel like he got fed up with doing stuff that he didn't want to do, and he didn't see why he should do it if it wasn't appreciated. I get it.
You know, it's funny because Mike Ross had probably one of the thickest skins that I knew.
Oh, he put up with a lot.
And it's funny because I get into a lot of arguments with people, you know, when I talk about like, you know, taking certain language out of commentary or like, you know, being more inclusive to genders and stuff like that. And people are like, you know, you're just too sensitive, get a thicker skin and stuff like that. But I said something recently to somebody that I just really liked that quote, but I was just like, the thickest skin like will still lose to like, you know, 10,000 BB guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a limit.
You can't do that. And certain people get bombarded with that kind of thing, right? When you're a minority, you get bombarded way more than if you're not a minority.
Sure.
And if you're a personality like Mike Ross, you're going to get bombarded a lot. Especially because that almost kind of became a shtick after a while. And I don't know how that happened. It was a really unfortunate turn of events.
Yeah.
You know, how Flo would like rib him and, you know, and just on the Excellent Adventures, he would get mad and everything like that. It became a shtick, so it became like he's in on the joke when you have the Mike Ross as a fraud side, but he never really was in on the joke.
I think that's a good way to put it. If you're that guy asking Mike Ross in that situation, you've seen Mike deal with crap enough and like kind of laugh it off that you think, well, this is the thing. So I'm going to make him deal with some crap and it'll be funny.
Right.
Because Mike thinks this is funny, right? Having seen it so many times. But there's a limit.
Right.
There's a limit.
Exactly.
That's none of that is to say that I think it's just that he had some personal problem and that, you know, there's that the other issues aren't real, because I think some of them are. It's just that I think there also was this aspect of Mike doing stuff he didn't want to do for so long, and it finally just got to be too much.
And you know, keep in mind too, the mere fact that we're having almost like a, you know, 20-minute conversation about Mike Ross already is something he probably really doesn't like.
Probably so.
You know, so this is probably not like he would probably be mad if he saw us talking about him for this long. This is not the kind of thing that he wants.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But
got to do it though.
I mean, we got to talk about it. It's
the
funny.
news.
Yeah, it's the topic. Unfortunately for him. But you know, he has to know that when he puts an AMA out like that, then he's going to be part of the conversation.
He's a smart fella.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, I love the guy to death. I've hit him up a couple of times, right? I didn't say happy birthday to him, but then again, I don't say happy birthday to anybody. I'm just letting you know right now. I actually don't. It's actually a personal decision of mine because I know so many people a lot of the times that I feel like if I accidentally leave one out, that's even worse. So if I just say happy birthday to nobody, that it kind of...
Do you think like all of your friends are getting together and talking about whether you told them happy birthday?
That is the paranoia of my life. You know, that's what I'm telling you, man. So
guess what, Jim? He didn't say happy birthday to me this year.
Plus another thing too is like I'm getting to that age, and I know other people get to that age where they just don't want to know about their birthday. So enough. Like sometimes I just don't say anything to anybody. But again, like I love the guy to death. You know, I really hope for the best for him. I hope he does come back to the fighting game community, because honestly, the fighting game community misses him.
I just let him hang out with him, you know. I mean, if he doesn't want to do hosting and stuff, that's fine to me. But it'd just be nice to hang out.
Yeah, exactly. I just want him there because I just want to hang out. And even as a player, if he's just there as a player, he's charismatic enough. I like the poker analogy again. I always felt like Mike Ross was like the Daniel Negreanu. Like he was the guy that everybody loved. You know, like everyone for some reason was like, I want this guy to win after they saw the profiles on TV. And I felt like Mike Ross was kind of like that. So, you know, if he could come back as a player, and then we can hang out in our room eating pizza all day, you know, and not saying anything to each other, like I'm totally happy with that. And I even saw a bunch of people in the chat were like, that actually sounds like an awesome time.
We were just on our phones, just eating pizza.
Just talking, or just every once in a while just say like one thing to each other, and then we're like, okay, that's
pretty accurate, actually. But anyway, with respect to the larger issue about FGC becoming too esports, you know, I feel like that's something that we're all worried about and are trying to not make happen. So everybody who I've talked with about this in the FGC is thinking about it. Players, commentators, organizers, broadcasters, like all the different roles, everybody's thinking about it, and nobody wants it. That said, everybody has a different idea, different conception of what makes the FGC, what the essential part of the FGC is. Nobody, it's not just a monolith. Everybody has different thoughts, and everybody has a different line as to where it becomes too different, right? Should you have two guys walking down the blue hallway when you ask what they were doing in Vegas,
most
and then they pose?
No,
probably not, right? But there's something. There's a whole set of things that are like before that people will differ on.
Like even I still remember getting, having debates with other production people of whether a pre-show, post-show was more important than replays, and stuff that. Yeah, right. Like little things like that. There's definitely going to be a lot of different ideas there.
For sure.
I mean, the thing about it is, for me, is that the problem is that esports is so established already. You know what I mean? Like, even though it's still in its infancy, and it's still going to change a lot. It's going to change a lot. But what esports side of things feel like is esports is really established. And I feel like they're kind of trying to force that onto the fighting game community still. It's always been that way for a very long time. And my point is that esports doesn't have to be one kind of thing, right? So while I'm like, fuck esports, I don't want to go into that direction, at the same time, I'm like, let's make this grow and be successful. James, isn't that just trying to go esports? Yes, but on my own terms, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're in a unique position where the fighting game community is definitely way more self-observing. I don't know, like we stare at ourselves a lot, right? And I feel like we're in a position where we can control what our version of esports is. You know what I mean? I want us to be FGC. And if that, I don't mind having good production, but but even like choices, like I don't wear a tie on stream anymore, only for Evo and Capcom Cup, right? But outside of that, I've stopped. Last 2 years, I haven't worn a tie on stream at all because that's not FGC to me anymore, right? And so like there are decisions that we can make, but still be kind of professional if we can. I don't ever want to take away like a Yipes and Lee Chung commentary. Like, that should never happen. Like, they should be commentating until the end of time. I don't have a one-set idea, this is how every commentator should sound and look. It's kind of thing like that. You know what I mean? I want all the different... And, I have fun when we actually do get to mix. You know what I mean? When it's like Yipes and you, and then me and Lee Chung or something like that. I think it's really cool, so...
Yeah, as I think we've often said, what matters the most to me is that fighting game... esports, I guess, fighting game esports, is done by fighting game folks. And that it's not just an outside organization that just swoops in and handles things. And I think that mostly we are doing that. Most of the organization, production, certainly commentary, all the playing, all that stuff is almost all by fighting game folks.
Yes.
And in fact, I feel like if anything, fighting game folks have sort of infiltrated the rest of esports better than the rest of esports has infiltrated fighting games in terms of who is working on what. So I'm really happy about that. There are still some times when I think that things go too far, but personally I feel like that's rare. So my own thoughts are that fighting games has not gotten to esports yet, because what would signify that it's gone to esports to me is if esports folks, that is to say non-endemic fighting game folks, are the people like running the show, making the decisions, and I don't feel like that is happening. I feel like it's very much the opposite.
Yeah, and in fact, even something like Evo, which is about maximum professionalism that we can get, right? Because it's on ESPN and all that stuff like that. But some people were talking about the L.I. Joe moment when he came out of the tunnel and was like high-fiving everyone, and him and Yipes gave each other a hug. All the stuff was just natural. It was organic. It just happened because that was going to happen, whether the cameras were on or not. And that's kind of the goal. So it's weird. I want the professionalism, but at the same time, I never want to lose our heart. I never want to see our players behind a red rope or red curtains
Yeah.
or something at an event. And everybody that I talk to, I'm always like, this is the greatest thing about this, is that you're talking to me right now. There's Thaiger walking around looking lost, because he always looks lost when he's walking around.
For sure.
Right? You know, and it's like, I never want to get to that point, you know. Will we get there if the idolization becomes a problem? Maybe, but like, if I can fight the idolization, you know, problem, I will do my best to fight that, you know.
Yeah. So with respect to Mike's distaste for his sort of public persona, he was much deeper into that than anybody else in fighting games. Nobody else in fighting games had that kind of persona.
Yeah.
He was by far, I felt, like the most sought after person when it came to walking around events and getting, you know, requests to say hi and whatever, and social media hitting up and all that stuff. When I've been to esports events, I mean, I've seen prominent esports casters have to just sit down at a desk and have like public signings. Because so many people want to talk to them. And literally the line will be 100 people long, and you know, it'll take a long time. And so they're dealing with that. Nobody else in the FGC dealt with that. But Mike got close to it. So I get why, from his perspective, that was too much. For me, that would be too much too. I definitely have a limit. Yeah, I said casters because I was talking about esports casters. Yeah, not commentators, which is us.
Yep.
That was the joke. Jeez. Can't believe people didn't get it. Also, I'm wearing an MLG shirt. How's nobody talked about this in the chat?
I saw a couple of people mention it. I saw one guy mention it, yeah.
Jeez. I feel like I'm trying too hard over here. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. No, yeah, I mean, like I said, I always look at, it's interesting because, you know, I used to watch a lot of basketball, but I've said this many times, but inside the NBA, at least during the I don't know what it's like anymore because I haven't watched it as much, so I can't really comment on it, but during the heyday of Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, when they were winning Emmy after Emmy after Emmy, that's what I want the fighting game to be, the community to be. It's a professional thing, but when those guys were sitting there, all they did was talk trash to each other. And like sometimes they would be like, well, here's the recap of what the game just happened. And then they don't even talk about it. Like they're yelling at each other about like stupid things or saying dumb things. Everything was a meme. Going fishing was a meme at some point in time, right? And you would actually hear the players come up and go, tell Charles, we haven't gone fishing yet. You know what I mean? Like it became a meme that people would respond to and everything like that. And, you know, even like when Shaq tripped, like they all turned it into memes and everything like that. You know, they were really good about that. They were still themselves and they were still trash talking each other. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing that I've always wanted to go, you know, with. That's kind of the thing. You know, I casted esports in that very same desk. That's right. At E-League. Yeah, I mean, it's... I'm jealous, though. I would have liked to have seen. Dude, the desk was so tall. I could imagine, dude, because I mean, Shaq is sitting at that desk. Yeah, right? Like it was legit. Like we were sitting on bar stools, essentially, like comfier bar stools. You know, definitely it was tall. Yeah, that's why Shaq tripped, right? So yeah, you cast it off. Yeah. Anyway, so I do think it's the case that everybody I've talked with is interested in maintaining the FGC rather than going to esports. It's just an issue of where each individual person draws that line. Yeah. But like nobody in fighting games is out there like trying to esportsify it too much. Right. And again, yes, I'm always out there talking about I want it to grow, I want it to be successful, and I've had a lot of people tell me I wouldn't mind fighting games staying at grassroots. I mean, just understand, I totally get that. And I was like that for the longest of time. I'm not there now. It's not a disingenuous reason. I'm not sitting here because I want to be popular and I want to be famous and I want to be living in a mansion or anything like that. You know, it's just because there's just so much damn talent in this scene, and the games are so wonderful. It makes me sad in a lot of ways. And like I said, I see a lot of the response on social media from the Mike Ross AMA is like, yeah, fuck where all this is going. Like, I don't like this esports stuff. Let's just end it all or whatever like that. And that's where a lot of that contribution comes into. Like, I feel like in a way, my goal of trying to figure out a way for us to grow and be professional without losing our personality, which is entirely possible.
I think so.
But I feel like that war is being lost. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people take esports and they blame that on, you know, why Street Fighter V is not good to them, or they use that to blame why, you know, it's like, it's an excuse. And when someone like of Mike Ross's stature, when he says something like that, everyone listens to him, and now everyone's going to be like, oh, thank God this guy said it, and now that means it's true. And I feel like that might put us a little bit of a step back, but at the same time, I do like the fact that it has reset our awareness so that we can make sure that it doesn't happen to the FGC. You know?
I certainly don't begrudge anybody who thinks that we've gone to esports already. Everybody has their own thoughts on that, and I don't begrudge Mike's.
No, not at all, not at all. Yeah,
I think that's fine. I don't agree, but I think that that's fine, and I certainly get where they're coming from. I mean, I remember how it used to be. It was way smaller, and it was. I mean, I feel like the olden days are romanticized a little bit, but they were certainly less controlled. Yeah, you know, I mean, there were fewer people. You knew everybody. So I mean, there are nice aspects to it for sure, but at the same time, you know, I definitely remember winning tournaments, and I like bought dinner that night. Like that was it. Like, you know, there was no money in it. Which is nicer for players now that they can actually do a thing. It's not just the money, though. I mean, now I get to travel all over. There are players playing all over in a way that was not the case before, for sure. Right. People get to watch and be part of things from home in a way that wasn't the case before. It used to just be like if you weren't in one of a handful of cities,
you couldn't play.
You just weren't part of the scene. Like maybe you posted on SRK, but like you just what are you doing? Like you couldn't play.
You waited for that third copy VHS tape of B3 to come into your home so you could actually watch some Alpha 2 action.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually I think it was on Facebook, like someone was talking about how great all the old games were and everything like that, and I was like, dude, like the nostalgia is ridiculous at this point in time because man, people hated watching CVS2. People hated watching Third Strike. You know,
Chun-Mirrors.
Yeah, Chun-Mirrors, basically. But, like...
The rest of it was sick.
Yeah. I mean, Japan was sick. I'll say that. Japan Third Strike is always sick. But, you know, there's so much rose-tinted glasses on everything. When someone was just like, man, Street Fighter V sucks because the presentation isn't as good as it was in Street Fighter 4. And I was just like...
I'll tell you, literally when SF4 came out, we talked about this in the past, but when SF4 came out, it was not thought to be a pretty game.
Dude, it was terrible.
It was already, like, literally day one.
Like, Honda and Dalsum, you're just like, and Blanca, you're like, what happened to them? And then, like I said, Ryu does jump roundhouse, he's not even looking at the guy, he's like...
Yeah, no, it was immediate. It was immediate. I mean, so there was a... Oh, man, the chat's moving so fast. Who was it? Who said it?
But even like MVC2, people hated early on. You know, people hated that early on because they thought it was super ugly.
Oh, Hatman, who says that we get to travel all over. How many can say that? You know, implying obviously not many people get to do it, which is true. Not many people get to do it, but way more people get to do it now than were able to do it in the past. In the past, almost nobody traveled significantly. There were a few, but like I remember living on the East Coast and in the DC area, and we had a tournament in Virginia, and I was like flabbergasted that maybe like 5 people came from New York City. It was like Justin and you know, like that caliber of player, and that was crazy to me. That was considered big time traveling, right? Not even coast to coast, but like midway down the seaboard, and 5 people, and it was like it was qualitatively different in terms of the amount of travel going on. It's a lot more people now.
Yeah, and like before, like yipes, if I saw my Evo, after Evo's done, you had to spend 3 hours saying goodbye to everybody because you weren't going to see them again until next Evo. Yeah. You know what I mean? Nowadays, I'm like, well, I'll see you at the next event. Whatever, you can leave now. You know, it's like you can get out of there. Before Evo, it was literally like that ballroom after it was done. Everyone stayed in there because you had to find each other because you weren't going to see each other again for a year. And so that's what it was like before. You know what I mean? So it was really small.
Yeah. So it's true that relatively few people get to do it still, but that number again is much, much bigger than before. So there just are more opportunities. and not even all of it for commentary and for playing, but people do it for broadcasting too. And there are journalists, only a few, but there are journalists who travel around for it as well. You know, I mean, that stuff is developing in a way that just was not there in the past. Anyway, the point of all this is that while there were nice things about when the scene was smaller, there are also many nice things about it being bigger and having more money. It's just that I think that we need to make sure, do our best to make sure that the money comes in a way that is controlled by FGC people still.
Right.
And as I said before, I think that we're doing a pretty good job of that. It's not categorical. E-League is the thing that is mostly not fighting game people, although some, there are definitely fighting game people involved in that, but it's not like the sort of upper level management.
Right.
So there's some of it, but it's almost everything else is fighting game people.
Right. The fact that Evo on ESPN production was done entirely by the Tenno staff is still blows my mind that, you know, it was those guys got to do it. No, ESPN didn't get a say in how the show was, how Evo was presented on ESPN. It was the fighting game people who determined that, and I think that's fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah.
One of the guys working at E-League is EMP Roach King's Thighs.
And he's in the chat right now?
He sure is.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Hilarious that he landed on that name. And even when I saw him at Final Round this year, I saw him at E-League. I know you are. But he came up to me and he was like, hey, how's it going? Remember, I'm Roach King's Thighs. And I was like, what a thing to say.
Dude, you remember Thong Boy Bebop, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So he blames me for that name, and he's so mad about that name.
Oh, that was you?
Well, because for the longest of time, Bob Painter was Kuroyume in all the chats and everything like that, right? And which means Black Thunder, I think it is, or something like that. He was Kuroyume. And I guess one of the first things that his real name is Niles tried to do was go online and he called himself Kuroyume. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, hey, Bob. And so he was like, dang, someone else has that name already. So he changed it, and he changed his name to Thong Boy Bebop.
Okay, all right.
And
so he didn't need to pick Thong Boy Bebop.
No, he really didn't. No, he did not. But yeah.
Oh man.
But he still blames me about it. So.
That's very funny. Well, anything else to say about this esports conversation?
EMP Roach King's Thighs.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's a good one.
I mean, again, look, I know a lot of people who are very anti-esports for the fighting game community. Yeah. And I get it, because you're wearing the MLG hoodie. Back in the day when MLG was trying to do fighting game stuff, I was like, come hell or high water, I would like throw the grenade myself at MLG if I had to. I'm super opposed to it, but that's because, like I said, I don't want MLG coming in benefiting the FGC. I want the FGC benefiting MLG, because then we know who's in charge. And we kind of are in that position a little bit more now, but we're still not there yet.
Didn't you do commentary at MLG? No, you did not?
I never did MLG. They would never ask me to do that from all the things that I've said.
I don't know, because I said a lot of crap about them when they asked me eventually. I did do it. The time that I did it, I think it didn't go that great, unfortunately. In fact, it may have been one of the worst tournaments ever.
Right.
Justice 1 tournament. But for other esports groups, like when we did ESL a bunch, we did a bunch of stuff with them, and it was great. And a big part of why it was great was that everybody involved was fighting games.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody involved was from the FGC or had been playing fighting games forever and was at least like tangentially into the FGC. It felt like a very FGC production because people were. It was effectively. It was just using money that was from ESL. So the more that we can do that kind of thing, I think that'd be great. But again, if somebody thinks that the scene is already too esports, I don't begrudge them that judgment.
Right.
I think that's fine. In any case, and people were making this point on Twitter, you can still just hang out and play video games with your friends. It doesn't. You don't need to treat it as like some big giant thing that exists elsewhere with a lot of money. It can just be you and your buddies playing video games together, and at some degree, it should always have that. So if that's what you want to do, then that's always there.
Yep. Having said that, I will say though that I've always said that I would only commentate fighting games or Tetris because I love Tetris, or Splatoon 2 because I think Splatoon 2 would be awesome, but. Got into a point right now where if something else comes a call in, I might
I mean, I think you should. I don't think you should be that.
Yeah, I know.
categorical,
If I end up commentating something that's not a fighting game and not Tetris and not Splatoon, please do not begrudge me. I am not in a position to choose.
No, it's all good, man. I think that you should. I done been telling you should.
Yeah, I know. So.
This hoodie I got from MLG when I commentated, and I got to tell you, it's probably the most comfortable free hoodie I've ever gotten.
Really?
It's super comfortable. I sleep in it pretty regularly.
Okay.
It's super comfy.
Dude,
Nice
I would do Puyo Tetris at AnimEvo, but the problem is I don't know Puyo at all.
Bummer.
Like, I don't know Puyo, and I hate jumping on there and being disrespectful to Puyo, so, yeah.
Everybody has different things going on in the FGC. Some people want to make it a business, and I mean, I do. You know, commentary is not what I want to be my main business, but I do have a bunch of clients in the FGC. Some of the players in the past, some of the teams, some of the organizers, even some of the people who run tournaments, some of the broadcasters. They've been or still are clients of mine. So I am trying to make it a business.
Right,
It'd be helpful for me if there was more money involved, but it's still important to me that that money not come in such a way that outside forces get to control it. You know, I would not want some situation like having Riot or Blizzard just dominate it and decide everything that gets to happen. That's not at all what I want.
Yep, exactly. So
even though that'd probably be a lot more financially viable for me. You know, but hey, I got multiple things going on, and money's not all of it. So. Also, that's a big part of why not all of my law practice is esports. And it's a big part.
Do you actually have some stuff that's not esports?
Game dev and other stuff, websites.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay. You know, it's still modern technology.
It's basically all that.
Yeah, which is important.
New tech and media and the like. But it's not all esports. And that's a big part of why. And it's also a big part of why I wouldn't want to do full-time commentary. I always want to have the ability to tell somebody to screw off and that I don't want to do your thing. I always want to have that. I don't know if that's always going to be viable for me, but I'd love to keep that.
Yeah. Trust me, I mean, it definitely burns deeply. Like, every time I hear you say that, like, I would never want to do commentary full time. I'm like,
wow,
but like,
this is not a new conversation.
Yeah, I know, but trust me, it's only because I know you're right. Like, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but
hey.
I got to make it work. The hustle is starting now, dude. The hustle is starting now. So you might expect to see some stuff from me soon, hopefully. So.
All right, sounds good. So when Fighters of the Storm comes out from Blizzard, and when League of Fighters comes out, it's going to be old James Chen.
Yeah, there you go. So.
By the way, I like SF5.
I do like SF5, but the thing about it is...
It's not my favorite game ever.
It's at a point right now where, like, when people complain about it, they're like, I hate Street Fighter V, I'm like, that's fine. I can't argue with that.
Sure, man.
Right,
you have your own opinion.
I mean, like, I totally get it. You know,
it's fine.
I have complained about it. I mean, we've had debates about it before, where I'm just like, this game, like,
you didn't like it for a while. I didn't like it for a while.
I mean, I still have a lot of problems with a lot of what it is. Like, I think it needs another defensive option. I will shake my fist and yell at clouds forever until they bring back invincible dragon punches. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that I think are wrong with the game, but at the same time, this is where that rose-colored glasses thing comes in that bothers me, is that every single one of these games had these problems.
For sure.
Especially also because Street Fighter V is a direct result of what everyone got mad about Street Fighter 4.
Yes.
It's like, I hate backdashes and invincible safe uppercuts and one-frame links and everything like that. So they
all of which I said.
Yeah, and they made Street Fighter 5, and now here... Yeah. There it is. Like, you made your bed, sleep in it at this point in time. Don't absolve yourself from all the blame having the game turn out the way it is, you know? So
every game, whoever starts with each game, that's their favorite, you know, and that game is how you judge. It's like with the base that you judge every other game on. I get that because I kind of do the same, but you have to recognize it in yourself and know that other people are doing the same.
I wanted to
you know.
I wanted to put out a David-like tweet, like a troll tweet. I wanted to write, like, you know, when Street Fighter 6 comes out, everyone's going to talk about how it sucks compared to Street Fighter 5.
Definitely true.
And the reason why that's happening, because all the people are complaining, are not very good because you're so damn predictable. I wanted to say something to that effect, but, you know, I was just like, oh, I can't do it.
It's fine. Well, I hope that Capcom deals better with other things than they did with Capcom Pro Talk, because that's definitely a big bummer.
I mean, Capcom Pro Talk and now Battle for the Stones are all kind of like...
Also a bummer.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, but I don't know. We'll
all right, that's anything else to say about that?
Yeah, let's move on. I think we said enough. So.
All right, rambling over.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will, have the results for Thaiger Uppercut coming up for you. So
let's do it.
Be right back, guys. You know everyone wants to see you eat that core again, right? Save the core for the stream.
I'm not a monkey, all right?